So yeah, I'm going to present the SharePoint introductory session. The purpose of this session is basically to let you know about the basic features of SharePoint and the basic functionalities of SharePoint. It's not an introductory, or it's not an advanced topic or anything. It's just a basic presentation about the features of the SharePoint 2010. So within SharePoint 2010, there are basically several building blocks in SharePoint 2010. There are many features of SharePoint 2010, and we can do a lot of stuff with the help of them. First of them is basically sites. Sites basically represent the UI of SharePoint 2010. SharePoint 2010 has some ribbon UI, some SharePoint workspace, SharePoint mobile, Office client, and several other clients for the user interface. So the user interface is a separate thing. It's not tied with the SharePoint, right? It's not coupled with the SharePoint. Actually, you can have a non-Windows based UI, which will be you can have even non-Windows based UI, and SharePoint server will be another on another machine. Your application server can be on another machine. Your ISS can be on another machine. Your SQL server can be on another machine, and your user interface can be on another machine. So you can basically do that. You can even give the mobile interface separately, right, to the same SharePoint server. Then there is a feature of communities. Basically, this is the feature regarding the collaboration features of SharePoint, right? So collaboration does means that the business users or the customers, the partners, or anyone within the organization, within the enterprise, can interact with each other, right? They can share contents, they can share stuff, they can even create contents, share them, give comments on them. They can create the discussion boards, they can create the wiki pages, and share with each other, right? So this basically will provide a collaboration platform to each and every business user in the enterprise, right? Then the content. So this is the content that they can share, right? So they can create basically different documents, Word documents, PDF documents, report. They can generate the reports, and then they can share the audio and video contents as well. So these are the type of contents they can basically share with each other. Then there is a functionality of search. Search basically is a functionality. It's not the core functionality of SharePoint 2010. It's basically a separate functionality. It's basically an additional functionality of 2010. So you can make a search on the different contents of your you can make a search on contacts. You can make a search on your documents and stuff like that. So you can make search on all of the contents you create and you share with each other, right? So how the search works is okay. We'll see in detail each of them. So then we have insights. Insights is basically the business intelligence or BI part of the SharePoint, right? Whatever you do in SharePoint, you can have the reports over it, right? You can have the BI type of functionalities and features over it. So you can have the chart, web parts, you can have the Excel services, you can have the performance point services. Everything in SharePoint is a service, by the way. So you can have the performance point services to show the dashboards and the charts and stuff like that on the business intelligence platform within SharePoint. Then there is composites. It means that basically these are basic tools which with the help of whom you can basically create the different dashboards or different basically all of the SharePoint development can be done by these tools. So there are business connectivity services, there are InfoPath form services. These are new in 2010. These were not available in 2007. Then you have list, concept of list, workflows, SharePoint designer, Visual Studio. We will look into each of them individually later on. So this is basically a scope of SharePoint. Actually, SharePoint can be used within an organization for its internal employees. So at Allied, we can use SharePoint for our own website. We can share contents with each of us and stuff like that. So then we have an extranet. So we can basically extend the same functionality to our customers, to our partners, right? They will be available to see what we make them able to see on our sites. Like they can see their orders or anything like that. Then there is an internet site. So in internet site, any user who has the access of World Wide Web can come and see what is happening within SharePoint. So let's see each of them one by one. So first of all, there is site. Site is basically capability is required to use SharePoint sites to engage employees, partners, customers in an effective way, both inside and outside of the firewall, right? Just like I have described it. So this is basically SharePoint portal or SharePoint site, right? SharePoint user interface can be on World Wide Web. It can be on a mobile device or on any other device, right? So then there is SharePoint ribbons. This is a new functionality in SharePoint. Just like we have a ribbon on the top of Excel and Microsoft Word, Excel, Access, etc. So it's just like that. Then there is a workspace. It basically you can you can list the tasks, list libraries and files. You can take them offline and you can do stuff on them, and then you can bring them online. So this is sort of workspace. It's basically your account type of thing. So then mobile, SharePoint does offer its interface to be viewed in SharePoint mobile, right? So you can have you can even get alerts via SMS, but for that you will have to have a third-party provider for SMS services. Then there are Office web applications, right? You can basically do a lot of stuff with the rich interface UI. You can basically provide Excel services within SharePoint. You can even provide Silverlight applications. You can even provide JavaScript libraries. You can use jQuery to make the HTML contents very flashy and very user interactive applications. Then there is communities. Communities is basically sort of concept what we do in real life in Facebook or in MySpace or previously in Orkut. So it's basically the feature that we can create our profile. We can share things with each other within organization or even outside of organization and stuff like that. So we can tag people just like we do in Facebook or MySpace or other social media websites. We can do that. We can basically keep our notes, give ratings to others. We can have our blogs within SharePoint. These are basic functionalities. These are all provided by the SharePoint out of the box. You don't have to do much effort to create them. Then there is content, basically what actually is available in SharePoint. There are lists. There is a concept of libraries. There is a concept of web parts, document sets. We'll see into the details later on in this presentation. We do have the metadata. Metadata of SharePoint actually resides in both forms. It actually resides in within file system, Windows file system, as well as within the SQL Server as well. So basically all of the pages does lie within the file system, but if you modify any of the page, it will go back into the SQL Server as a modified version of the page. Then you can have video streaming, you can have document sets. These are all the basic things. So then we have the search functionality. Search, just like I described earlier, search is you can search anything within SharePoint. You can make any content to be searchable, right? Just like on your Windows machine, you have the search options. They can crawl your information, whatever you want them to be included in the search. They will feed that information, whatever it crawls. It will feed that information into its information retrieval database, and then it will index them, and it will pop up the information whatever you need. So these are the basic SharePoint search options. You can even search for the people in the SharePoint. So then it is saying that it has improved SharePoint results. Then the SharePoint 2007. You can even now do a wildcard searching as well, just like he did here. You can give the statics and things like that. Then there is Insight. Insight is basically the business intelligence features of the SharePoint. The new thing in SharePoint Insights is basically it can now integrate with the Visual Studio Analysis, Microsoft Analysis services as well. So Insight includes Excel services, performance point services, SQL Server, analysis services, reporting services, then Power Pivot. You might be familiar with it, whoever used the Excel. Then there are Visio services. You can have different type of maps, charts, grids, and things like that within the dashboard. Then so everything is service, right? There are Access services, there are Visio services, PowerPoint services, Performance Point, and there are chart web parts as well. So web part is basically a basic component which you can place anywhere within your SharePoint site. You can have chart web parts as well. They will have very flashy charts built in within SharePoint 2010. This is basically a diagram of the Visio service which can be shared within the SharePoint 2010. And then there are Performance Point services. It now supports SQL Server Analysis services 2008. Then there are Business Connectivity services. Business Connectivity services are basic connectivity services which connects your basic definitions of the business with some of the custom implementation of or custom rules applied on top of it, and then you can share them. You can export them in any format, and then you can share them with anyone in the organization. Then there are composites. These are basically tools to create or to build the SharePoint portal, right? So you have the SharePoint Designer. For that, SharePoint Designer is a tool which will help you to create or modify the existing code, or you can create even the new code within it. Then there are InfoPath form services, Access services, Microsoft Access services, and many things like that. Then it comes to the part of administration. Administration is sort of a specifically separate job within SharePoint. It's a heavy job. You have to basically manage sites. Once you have created the sites, it's not difficult to create sites, but it's difficult to manage them. What security you want to implement on them, what are the site collections and things like that. We'll see in a minute about that. Then there are development features for there are SharePoint APIs with the help of whom you can basically develop SharePoint applications within Visual Studio 2010, and then you can basically extend the out-of-the-box functionalities through code within Visual Studio 2010. Okay, so these were the basic features what I have described to you. These were the basic features. Now I'm going to tell you about some of the development features of SharePoint. So SharePoint has a large scope, just like we have seen before. It does have a large scope. There are many things within SharePoint, and you can have a look at them. So basic building blocks of a typical environment in SharePoint are the users and the power user features. What they are, how can you allow them to or restrict them to view or create or manage them, basically to do stuff on within the portal. Then there are tools for designers and administrators. Basically, just like we saw a slide before, I think, yeah. This is basically a central administration of SharePoint 2010. This is the view where SharePoint administrator can go, and then they can basically manage all of the administrative tasks there. So okay, so there are massive managed and web service APIs also available to do stuff without out of the box available tools within SharePoint. Okay, so basically within SharePoint application, whenever we are going to develop an application in SharePoint, every application is basically a solution. A solution is a broad perspective of whatever you do, create a portal or something like that. But the applications can also be reusable components of other solutions basically. So you can create a solution and you can basically import it in other solutions, just like we do with class libraries in coding. So it's SharePoint does provide a consistent deployment method for developers and administrators. You can sort of create packages with SharePoint and follow the standard rules of making them first into the test, then to production, and then test, then to staging, and then to production. So our solution can utilize platform services to deliver a complete set of functionalities. Okay, so how data is structured within SharePoint? SharePoint provides services for data and content. Basically, we can model the data, we can manipulate the data, and we can store the data. Underlying mechanism to do that, one place to store the data within SharePoint is the Windows file system, right? So and the other one is SQL Server. There is no hard and fast line what actually is stored on the file system or on the SQL Server for the developer or for end user. End user doesn't have to know what objects are basically stored on the file system or the SQL Server. They will be presented with the objects or object names. So there are basically APIs to fetch that data from the SQL Server or from the Windows file system. So Camel is basically a basic library. It's a collaborative application markup language. It's an XML based language. You can define queries, you can define views within, you can define lists and stuff like that within this XML object, and you can run it against the data available. Then there is a DLL also available for managed code. It's Microsoft.SharePoint.dll. You can include it into Visual Studio 2010 of your code, and then you can basically extend its functionalities. Then there are JavaScript and Silverlight client libraries are also available. So you can sort of do stuff with the help of them. In Silverlight, you can basically create flashy dashboards and very attractive dashboards, or even the UI of the website. Then there are various web services also available. One is SOAP, WCF, REST, and many other web services are also available to do stuff outside of your typical Visual Studio environment. Then the API support, these APIs basically support deployment of the data and content. They basically define and manage the data structures, define and structure of data sources or data stores, and retrieve and manage the data and content from the SQL Server or the file system. So user interface. Data is worthless without UI, as we all know. We can build SharePoint Web UI with the help of ASP.NET, JavaScript, Silverlight, Infopath. Infopath is a new thing within the SharePoint 2010. It wasn't available in 2007. So we can basically whatever we do with ASP.NET 2.0 and 3.5 and 4.0 even, we can do all of that stuff within SharePoint, and we can extend it with the help of SharePoint DLL. Then we can basically JavaScript. We use JavaScript to basically made the basic functionalities of the jQuery or YUI or other such libraries within SharePoint. Basically, we can include that functionality. We can have Silverlight, Infopath, and so on. We have service APIs allow any kind of clients. So basically, we can use the service APIs to view the data in any format. We can use the Windows form for that. We can use the WPF services for that, and we can use the non-Windows platform even. We can use service APIs, and we can show the data, show the user interface in any of these platforms. So there are many background services. We had looked on all of them before. There's search, business connectivity services, word automation, and many other services. So these are the basic service APIs what we have discussed before. There are traditional SOAP services, WCF services, REST services, and web depth services to basically interact with SharePoint's data and this and that. There's everything. So now up till now what we have discussed is the basic functionalities of SharePoint, right? So now if we go to the user's perspective, what user will see, there are different type of site collections within SharePoint. So if we have a website of ours like LHC.com, it's a site collection. We can have different departments, different websites or different web paths for a different departments. We can have LHC.com/fn for finance department, /help desk for help desk, and things like that. So it basically provides the visibility of queries and rollups and things like that. So it is just an example that what we have a single site collection. We have a website of LHC.com. We have LHC.com/fn to handle our finance, /HR to handle our HR services, and /help desk to help to see our help desk services. But let's suppose we have to outsource, or we have to basically outsource our finance department to somebody else outside of the organization. Then we have to have a separate site collection for this finance department, right? You can basically apply different permissions and different security policies over a single site collection. So just like we can have the HR and help desk, we can manage this site collection, and this site collection LHC.com/fn. This can be managed by any other person. We can use basically different kind of functionalities of securities in that. And just let me hold it right now, and let me give you just an introduction. Enough of slides. Let me show you what actually is going on behind the scenes. So this is basically a virtual machine. It is being provided by Microsoft as by themselves. It's a VHD. It's in VHD format. You have to convert it to your VM format by yourself, and then you can use that. It's there's basically some hardware um, hardware things which you need to have them. Basically, it requires at least 4 GB of RAM. It basically, if you can allow it, it basically needs a different application server, a different SharePoint server, a different SQL server for better performance. But you can have all of them on the same machine like I have right now. So let's go to the SharePoint. We do have SharePoint 2010 products. There is a basic functionality of SharePoint Central Administrator. So we'll see what controls we do have in SharePoint 2010 and stuff like that. It normally takes a bit time to load in the start. Yeah, okay, so this is the ribbon where it basically tells you what are the problems when you install this SharePoint 2010 product. Then you can have basically application management. You can monitor your sites, you can apply security on them, you can have general application settings, you can have the system settings, you can backup and restore different site collections. You can basically export site collections from there as well, take a backup and then export to other production systems, for example. You can upgrade and migration, you have those tools as well. So let's have a look on application management. So we have web applications here, we have site collections here, just like we were talking on the slides. Then we have service applications, we have databases, we can manage all of them from here. The administrator of SharePoint 2010 has to basically know all of the features within this portal, SharePoint Central Administration. So let's see what we have. We view all site collections. It will take a minute to load. Okay, so this is the first part of the website, the first basically sort of departmental site within the SharePoint of us. It's finweb.constoso.com. It was basically delivered within when I basically take the VM from Microsoft side. It was basically built in feature. So these are basically there you can have different site collections. You can manage them. You can create new site collection. You can delete an existing one and things like that. So whatever title I'll assign there, it will be its title. Then I can give the description of it. The path of that site collection will be that. We can do some test. It's a test, and let's call it as a test. So there are basic templates of each site. You can have a team site, you can have a blank site, document workspace, or blogs, anything like that. These are the basic templates which you can use out of the box. Then you can have the usernames who should have the access on this site and things like that. Okay, you must have to specify. You have to create basically users before doing that. So we'll work with the existing one with whatever we have already did. So these are the basically the SharePoint site collections, and we can manage them from here. we can have the system settings, we can configure the servers, email and text messaging. We will have to have the third party for doing that. We can monitor what actually is going on our servers. So all of the administrative tasks we can go and do from here, right? Okay, so these were the administrative things what an administrator of SharePoint 2010 can do. Then we have basically, let's look into one of the development feature of SharePoint 2010, and these are the list and libraries, what actually these are and what we can do with the help of them. So list and libraries, basically everything, not everything, but many of the stuff in SharePoint 2010 is done with the help of lists and libraries. We can have the list of elements of different things. Lists are basically, list provides primary elements for a site, and libraries are basically columnar data optionally organized by folders. You can have basically organize your libraries, document libraries even, in different folders and things like that. You can have picture libraries and stuff like that. Libraries and lists are basically based on a template. There can be one or more content types, there can be one or more fields and one or more views. It will make sense in the next slide more. Then you can have the list views. On the top of list is basically the storage of the data, right? You can define the elements within the list and things like that. After having the list, you can have the list views. List views actually organize those columns how you want to have the look and feel, and then not basically look and feel, but how you want to organize those columns. Then you can sort them, you can group them, you can put a filter on them. These are all the features of list views. List basically supports a variety of view styles as well. By default, it's a standard, but you can basically shape it into a data sheet, a calendar, a Gantt chart, an Access, Microsoft Access form. Then there are list forms. Basically, on the top of list views, there are list forms. These are the operations that you can perform on the list views. By default, there are all types of list forms available within the SharePoint. You can make any element of your list to be displayed or not. You can create new elements, edit, you can view forms and things like that. So 4 elements are. Yeah, exactly. Just a minute. Base list types. There are basic list types. Some generic list types, document libraries, discussion forms, vote or survey, issue list. These are all the examples of the list types. So and then basically list does have the libraries, document library, forum library, wiki page library, picture library. These are all the different types of the list and different examples and out of box functionality what SharePoint gives you by default. So let's have a look on how we can do stuff with the list within SharePoint. So this is our central administration page. Let me open another page. It will be our one of the site collection. It's related to finance of the portal of the site. It's a local host copy of that. Yeah, so here we go. So here we can see the by default lists which are already included in this site are the calendar and tasks. We can have our custom lists to be included in this as well. Suppose we can go to the site actions. We can have the more options. So it will take a minute to load. I think so okay. So these are the basic out of the box features which are available to be created without any need of the development. You can create an announcement object or asset library or anything from there. If you go to the list type of filter by list, you can have all of these, any of these. You can create any of these. Let's create a list of contacts, for example, for Amar. So you can have many elements within the list. You can add them, edit them, delete them. There are many options in settings which you can actually apply on them. So these are the basically default columns which are already available within the list, right? Last name, first name, company name. You can include your own columns. For example, if I go to the create column, you will have you can see. Okay, so my column can be of single line of text, multiple line of text. It can be of choices. If I select the choice button, it will show us the choices, and I can give all of the choices here. Then it can be of number, currency, date and time, and all of the stuff which is mentioned here. We can also apply basically column validation within this box. We can provide the basic requirement to the validation of the column. We can basically set an error message in case if the validation fails, whatever we want to show the user. It's, for example, if I create the column with single line of text, it's his phone number, let's suppose. There might be phone number already, mobile number, let's suppose. So if I hit OK, so we can see that mobile number field is added here. We can add an item from here as well. Basically, I can provide his name, Amar, and all of the other informations. So let's go and hit the save button. So I have this Amar Khan contact created within there, right? I can even export this contact into Outlook 2010 if we have installed here. Let's connect to Outlook. So we can sort of export it back to the SharePoint, and then from SharePoint to Outlook. It works both ways. So I ask for the permissions. Yes. Hello. So this is our contact, right? We have exported it into here. We can actually modify it, and all of the modifications we make here will be reflected in SharePoint as well. So it works in both the directions. So allied consultants, you can save and copy some tools. Go there, hit the refresh button, and you'll see that allied consultants comes here as well, right? So we can export the list. We can use the list anywhere, everywhere, many of the places within the SharePoint. And there are a lot of information and applications of the list here. There's plenty of stuff you can do there. So this was an example of this. So this was pretty much it for the day, and if you do have any questions, I will try to have another session which will include the other advanced topics. These are the basic functionalities of SharePoint. There are many advanced topics. You can basically create the web parts, how to create them, uh, how to do stuff with business connectivity services, how to do stuff with search, how to do stuff with the insight and performance point services and stuff like that. So we'll have another session for that. So any questions?
Okay. So in the presentation you showed us that we can deploy it anywhere,
Yep.
whether we are running an Windows-based platform or non-Windows-based.
Yeah.
So
Not SharePoint server, just the UI.
yeah, the UI.
Yep.
So let's say we have a PHP server. Not an IIS server. Let's say it's Linux-based or
Yep.
something like that.
Yep.
So we can also deploy it.
Yeah, exactly, definitely. You can,
website.
yeah, you can definitely do that with the help of its APIs. You'll have to have the internet connection over there wherever you want to do that, and you have to collaborate your UI with the service APIs, with the API of the whatever protocol you follow. If you like SOAP, or if you like the HTTP request or anything like that, you can basically communicate to the SharePoint server through them, through these service APIs. So any other question? No? So should we conclude that?